Come in.
Do you know why I am here?
You are the rabbi. I assume the woman sent for you. You'll have to forgive her. She can be hysterical at times.
This is no way to speak.
She's tried everything, consulted doctors and ritualists, but all of their efforts have failed. I'm telling you, I'm fine. We consider for 5 minutes to appease
This is
her.
no way to speak of a mother. It is said you are under the control of a debak.
She believes it to be so.
You become strangled by darkness and lash out, yet have no memory of these episodes.
Nor does anyone. It is only her.
And it is only around your mother that these occurrences happen? It is the 8th night, you know? The Shabbos as well? Forgive me, I must learn to introduce myself sooner in these matters. I am Rabbi Yeshua.
Paul.
Paul Joseph Taylor, if I'm not mistaken. Not a very Jewish name. You're a Gentile, Paul. Oh, don't worry, I have many Gentile friends. The most in my congregation, may I add. So, Paul, I can forgive you for not knowing the significance of the 8th night or the Shabbos. But as you have said, we have time to kill. And so to appease your mother...
She's not my mother.
You see, in the Jewish tradition, Paul, we have a day of rest. We toil for 6 days and 6 nights, working away at the grindstone, ducking around corners from Egyptians, Germans, angry bald-headed men. You've been at school, you know. And then on the 7th night, after a long week of struggle, we allow ourselves to rest. Now, the story of Hanukkah tells of a time when Antiochus, the king of Syria, ruled that all Jews must worship him. Now, this was forbidden by the first commandment, of course, so a small group of Jews called the Maccabees rose up and rebelled against him. Now, do you know why I'm telling you this, Paul?
You are a young rabbi?
And this is most certainly true. I have studied the Torah and the Talmud since my fingers could turn the pages, but I am comparatively baby-faced. I am not as equipped or experienced compared to many of my peers in dealing with these matters. But when it is the Shabbos and the 8th night, well, as we say in Hebrew school, you get what you get. How does it feel when you're possessed by the devil?
There is no Dybbuk.
Does the darkness come in quick, or does it creep in over hours?
These are questions for my mother. I'm sure she'd be happy to...
I've asked your mother to wait outside. I'd like to talk with you, Paul. You've said your mother has brought in many doctors and ritualists to exorcise you. I understand, Paul. This is not your first rodeo. It is not mine either. You see, when you are first accepted into the congregation, you are sentenced, privileged, may I say, to lead over the Hebrew school sessions. On one of my classes, I had this little girl, Sarah. Adorable thing, a little quiet, ferociously intelligent. And Sarah's mother believed her to be possessed by a Dybbuk. And I was baffled. I couldn't believe it, but I wanted to do my due diligence. And so I went to visit Sarah at home. I sat down with her, I talked, and I looked for any sign of darkness, however slight, but could find none. And 3 times I visited Sarah at home. 3 times I left with nothing but pleasant conversation. And I thought the matter was over until one night, on Shabbos night, when my phone rang. I was having dinner with my family. Now normally, a rabbi is not supposed to answer the telephone on the Shabbos. But contrary to that, is that when a rabbi's phone rings on the Shabbos night, he knows it is an emergency. And so I picked up the phone, and it was Sarah's mother. And she said Sarah was under the grip of the Dybbuk. And so I left my family a little annoyed, and I went over there. And once again, I found an amicable little girl and her sobbing mother. There was nothing wrong with her. And I left. And 2 days later at Sunday school, Sarah was not there. News broke by nightfall. The little girl had put a knife in her mother's back while she was sleeping. She was charged with second-degree murder and has been in a cell ever since. And I made a vow on that day that if it was Shabbos or the 8th night, it didn't matter. I would go and I would sit and I would listen and I would look closer. Now, Paul, I'd like you to entertain my questions now. Why does your mother believe you to be possessed by a Dybbuk? What do you think of doing to your mother when no one is around? When you are having these thoughts, do you feel responsible? Or do you feel like there's someone else there? Paul, I do not believe you to be possessed by a Dybbuk. I do not believe in Dybbuks, but I do believe in the great evil in man. And I'm here to remind you that you are responsible. If you are having these thoughts, you need not bow to them. And if they are ever seeming too dark to bear, tell me. I can shoulder the burden. It is a struggle. It is work. But that is why we must rest. Happy Hanukkah.